eventually you get absorbed in, and you are Sonic.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to No Repeat. It's a podcast where we pick 3 songs every week with no repeats and no do-overs to create a perfect playlist for every occasion that life throws at you. I'm Taylor Olstead, and I'm joined by my colleagues in rock, Tyler Reed.
All right, I'm gonna do a metal for y'all.
Metal!
And Sean Evans.
I want to replace every chugging guitar in a metal song with somebody going, skirt!
Skirt, skirt. Tyler, what was our
exactly.
challenge this week?
This week, we were challenged to find the perfect metal song to turn into an R&B song, submitted by Sean? Taylor?
This one was me.
Taylor did one this week. Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah, this one was me. I saw somebody on TikTok who took Chop Suey by System of a Down and turned it into a Frank Ocean style R&B song. And I was like, that looks fun. I think that's a game we could play. And that was basically all the thought I put into it. And I sent the video to you guys and said, let's find more of these. That was it. Yeah, this was a really interesting one. I wanted to do it because I don't particularly like metal all that much. And I wanted to push myself a little bit.
right. Taylor, known anti-metal enjoyer. Says,
It's not
I
a-
love...
It's not that I'm anti-metal. It's that it's just not my genre of choice. So I wanted to kind of push myself and explore a space that I didn't know very well.
Did you, though?
I mean,
Your B-sides will tell a different story.
we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Okay, all right. You're right.
But you guys are more into metal. So talk to me about the kind of metal that you guys listen to, because metal is notorious for having a billion subgenres.
I've fallen in and out of love with metal. It has its moments. I feel like generally I can kind of get away with like one band per like major overarching genre, and that usually does me pretty good. But I feel like that kind of ends up being the way with a lot of sort of more like niche specific categories. Like the reason why I've brought up like Less Than Jake like 3 times is, well, they're not a good ska band, but they're the one that I like. So there you go. But I feel like for me, when I was kind of like looking around, a lot of the things I've kind of gravitated towards are more of like bands that have a distinct like sort of like fantasy to them. Like I specifically like, I mean, Amon Amarth is pretty cool. They do like Viking type stuff. There's like there's like Protest the Hero. Also sort of like we're going to be singing about fantasy stuff. And I feel like there's also something to be said about a lot of sort of like genres of metal in which the lyrical content is more like poetic, because especially if they're doing like dirty vocals, like screen vocals, obviously they're not going to be completing full sentences for obvious reasons. So the lyrical content ends up being a little bit more obtuse, just kind of like more about bigger ideas rather than like I'm gonna write you a literal poem. So that's kind of like, I feel like was kind of the challenge for this one, right? I feel like there's a metal notoriously known as being like an aggressive genre. So I found it difficult to sort of like kind of pick sort of within the wheelhouse that I sort of normally go within. Yeah, that's kind of just my initial thoughts.
Sean, what about you? What is your chosen metal?
Right now I'm really into metalcore, which is, it's kind of like if like emo and heavy metal had a mix together. That sounds like really weird, but there's not a lot of like thrash elements. There's some crystal vocals in there, but it does have some of the angst still. I think it's a good mix of the lyricality that I liked in what would have been like metal of our day, like a Perfect Circle and Tool kind of thing.
like
But then-
progressive metal of like the 2000s.
Yeah, it has that like progressive lyricist thing and like dynamicness of it, but it also has the screamo metal guitars and raw music sound that other genres have, like Bring Me the Horizon, Under Oath. Like it's just, I think it's a nice mix of a couple of genres that I listened to a lot, like 10 years ago. So I'm a big fan of that stuff, and I have a lot of Spotify playlists that encompass a lot of that. It doesn't come out on the show a lot because I don't think it necessarily fits all of our challenges, but occasionally it'll show up, and I think it's good workout rock. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what I mean. I'm excited for this challenge. My B-sides will be a little bit better than the song that I picked, but I was trying to think of a song that would make a very good, like, R&B remake song.
Okay, so that's where I wanted to go to, because there are metal songs and metal bands that I like more than what I picked, but I picked because I wanted something that would make a good, like, current R&B song. Because I think the, like, post-bedroom pop, like, Steve Lacy, Frank Ocean, SZA kind of R&B has what Tyler was talking about, this kind of, like, lyrical, not exactly straightforward kind of storytelling to it that is in line with some metal, as opposed to maybe the, like, 2000s R&B of, like, Mariah Carey, where you're like telling a story of a seduction. Like that's not really happening with these songs. They're much more about like vibes. And so when I was thinking about like my limited experience of metal, where are the songs that are like vibey? And I initially went to power ballads.
That's not a bad place to look.
Yeah, and I started and I spent like a whole afternoon listening to power ballads, and like there are some good ones in there.
Sorry.
I mean, you know, the thing about power ballads is they're really supposed to be track 5 on an album of otherwise heavy songs. When you listen to a bunch of them in a row, that's an experience.
I feel like there definitely were commercials on TV when we were kids that were like, get all the buzzed hard love rock.
Yes,
metal.
There was like a 10 CD compilation from Rhino Records or something. Yeah.
White Snake.
Yes. Track 1 is Always More Than Words by Extreme. Yes.
Yeah.
Weirdly, Dream On by Aerosmith was on the Power Ballads playlist. I do not consider that a power ballad.
Or really a metal.
I was going to say, that is a hard rock song. That is not a metal song. But, hey, whatever,
Hard rock is
Apple
even a
Music.
stretch. It's such a slippery slope for
Right.
for rock. Rock and roll has taken such a harsh dive, and that's kind of also what I was thinking about too. Was that I think I definitely wanted a song that felt a little bit more contemporary, that had a little bit more of that like sort of like modern like screen vocal or something. I feel like that would just makes it a little bit more comedic, a little bit more makes it feel like a little bit more of a challenge, where it's sort of like. Where it's like you kind of have to bridge the gap a little bit harder.
I disagree, because I wanted to pick a song where like Frank Ocean is on like the BBC Live Lounge or something, like one of these KEXP, NPR Tiny Desk, something like that. Mm-hmm. And he just whips out a cover of like an 80s hair metal track. Because how funny would that be? And that's what I was going for. I was like, I want a song that, like, lyrically, one of these contemporary R&B singers could sing as, like, a sincere song. But
you want this to be practical, I see.
Yeah, but if they whipped this out as a cover for, like, the AV Club or something, it would break the internet. Mm-hmm. Because it would just be so out of left field.
Just like, goodness gracious, when Chance the Rapper did Getting Hot in Here in the country western style.
Yes, exactly.
My internet.
Exactly.
If anything, we should expect more out of our artists, and they should do more crazy and wild things like that.
I agree.
Wild success.
Sean, what was your method this week?
I wanted to find a song that was... Oh, this is kind of weird, because I think the band that I picked played on a lot of genres. And this song was a harder song that they made off of an album that was a little bit older than... Well, it was probably right about their prime. I guess it was the album that came after they really like took off. But I was looking for a song that kind of had a metal vibe that also had some lyrical elements that could be played up in terms of a hip hop song or an R&B song, because I feel like then a lot of metal does that like A B A B C B kind of format, and not a lot of the hip hop that I listen to doesn't necessarily do that all the time, or if it does, like the B is really short. So I needed to find something that kind of had the ability to be played with a little, and that covered a topic that was probably relevant to today, but wasn't so far unimaginably away from hip hop. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay, and hopefully when you talk about it, it will become clear.
Well, do you want to just go first?
This week I chose Incubus Megalomaniac.
If I met you in a season fight, I'd cut off both your wings on principle alone, principle alone. Hey, megalomaniac, I know Jesus, yeah, no Elvis. What's your last name on yourself, baby? Step down.
Let's see. I think I remember this song coming out when I was in like middle school.
That would be about right. It was 2004.
Yeah, I remember this music video was really interesting because it had like a bunch of collage elements to it, like animated collage elements, and that kind of stuck out too. I also think there's a lot of things that are in this song that might carry over well to R&B or hip hop artists, because there is like some sense, and it does kind of have some new metal riffs to it a little bit. Like Incubus was pretty. They had somebody that played turntables a lot, and in their softer stuff, the turntables really have a bigger presence in it. This song doesn't really have that much of a turntable vibe as much as it does kind of like a synth vibe at the beginning. But it does have a lot of melodic guitars and bass lines and synths that kind of go over that I feel like could lend themselves to having a very good R&B song. So with that's kind of why I picked it, because I liked all those elements on top of this idea that we're coming 2022 and 2021 were the years of protest songs that came about 3 years too late for whatever reasons. And this song was like very pointed at its time, at 43. And I felt like it would just kind of fit to have, in this time again, to have it remade in a way that would make it relevant if somebody really liked Incubus in that way. I don't know if there's anybody who's like currently like really high in the game that would say like Incubus really influenced me in a way, right? Because of the way that hip hop has always been a lot bigger than any of us were ever aware of, and it has all these. It was very like regional for a long time, and then it became like one big thing, and so I'm not surprised at all when I listen to interviews of people and they're dropping people all the time, and I have no idea who that person is. Even people that I like, rock musicians, they're like, oh yeah, this. I'm like, who is this? But I think there could be. I think there's a lot of fertile ground here.
Yeah, I would agree. This is actually my favorite Incubus song.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know why, but this is the one that I've heard the most. It's the one that I like the most. I really dig this track. I like the like grunge influenced soft loud structure of it. I think that works very well. The vocal effects are really interesting. They feel kind of like something Frank Ocean would do. Interestingly, This song was recorded at Southern Tracks Recording Studio here in Atlanta, which is less than a mile from my current office. The more you know.
You go down there anytime.
Rumor is the property is up for sale, so... But apparently Incubus and Queens of the Stone Age recorded a lot of albums there. But yeah...
Not familiar with the other band.
No, definitely not. No, I really like this. I think this fits really well. Lyrically, you could really do a fun, like, kind of rework of this to be about certain other political figures of our current day. But I think ultimately, like, what makes this song work is just, like, its simplicity as, like, a well-written song. And that's where I think, like, taking any song from one genre and putting it in another, the songwriting at the core of it has to be good. And this one, I mean, it's got it. It's really tight. Like, it doesn't have a lot to say. It says it very quickly and very effectively, and then it gets out of the way.
Is it as good as I Feel Pretty?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, do they have it on Lil Yachty here? I think they might have the upper hand.
It's such a time capsule to pull Incubus out, considering it has literally been like... It is like...
It's been 20 years since this song came out.
Like this band was like cauterized. I don't know what the right word, but it's basically like there was a specific time in my life where I was really into Incubus in regards to a failed relationship. And so it has just forever sort of been like connected to that time in my life. And so I'm like, I don't know if I can go back to this. But that being said, God, I feel like Incubus hasn't really been on the radar. I don't feel like kids these days are aware. And I guess I'm confused as to what happened or what's going on.
Well, they had a hiatus for a couple years. And then they put out their most recent album in 2019, but had to cancel their tour because of the COVID pandemic.
As you can imagine. But I just feel like I haven't heard them in any conversation at all. And that's interesting. Cause oh my god, Like Grenades? That was definitely the softest album, but that was like the one that I got for like a birthday or whatever. And I was like, this is the beginning of my end, isn't it? I don't know. I feel like at the time, like after like listening to them for a bit, I was almost sort of like, it's a little goofy sometimes. Like it's definitely like a little funky, a little metally, and it's like a little like croony. Like the vocals sometimes are a little like kind of like all right, but you really can't deny that they're definitely good songwriters and definitely like are like proficient at what they're doing. And that being said, Megalomaniac is definitely one of my more favorite tracks. I wouldn't call it my favorite, but it's pretty close. I bet if I would have bought this album... Now, kids, the youth here, listen up. I bought like 3 or 4 Incubus albums for like one song each. Silly. Remember iTunes? No.
One of our favorite podcasts around here, You're Wrong About, did an episode this past week about Napster. And they were talking about in the pre-Napster days when you would spend $20 on a CD for one song. Incubus was very much in that era. And then they lived through the Napster era and somehow survived into the iTunes era where, yes, many people I know bought an Incubus album because of one song. In the same way that many people bought him albums because of one song.
Hey.
And you're like, what's going on here? This album's got a lot of stuff happening. Like I feel like you're in for a
and that's
surprise.
the difference, right? Because if you bought a him album, all the songs would sound vaguely like the single. Whereas if you buy an Incubus album, you don't know what you're going to get.
It's real up in the air.
Looking at their Wikipedia, there's a very long section on musical style and influences. I'm going to read the opening sentence to you. Bear in mind, this is a sentence. Yeah. Over the course of their career, Incubus has incorporated elements from a variety of genres and styles, including alternative metal, alternative rock, art rock, heavy metal, electro, funk, funk metal, jazz, hip-hop, nu metal, pop, rap metal, techno, thrash metal, psychedelic music, post-grunge, pop metal, and trip-hop.
That was 18. It's 18 genres.
You know, Incubus walked so King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard could run. Is all I'm gonna say.
It's amazing they haven't released an R&B song, honestly. That's like the only thing missing from that list.
That's true. That beats enough of me just sort of waxy poetic about Incubus. I feel like this song is I feel like it very easily translates into like an R&B. I feel like it already sort of has like a sort of like, I feel like his vocal styles is always like a little bit of like, feels like a little like R&B influence. Like it has a little bit of little crooning kind of vibe to it. You know, even though I guess apparently this is a political theme song. That's okay. I feel like that's, if I were to critique anything, if that's like sort of like the theme of it is like, ooh, well, I mean, I guess R&B doesn't have to be about making sweet love to your baby or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, you know, maybe I owe it to myself to listen to a whole R&B album. Folks at home, what's the like the track 9 political track on R&B album I need to listen to? But I think it works. I think it's good.
Well, why don't we go to something completely different and go to my pick?
Yeah.
Thank God I get this stuck out of my head quicker.
This week I chose Round and Round by Rat. So like I said earlier, I started by going down a huge rabbit hole of power ballads, and that didn't really work. So then I was like, all right, I'm going to go into the belly of the beast. I said, hey iPhone, play hair metal essentials. And about 45 minutes in, Round and Round by Rat came on. And I was like, you know what? Yes. Round and Round is Rat's biggest single. It has been placed on many lists of essential hair metal songs, essential hair metal music videos. It's, you know, it's something. I mean, it is every bit of 1984. And that's kind of why I wanted to pick it. Because I felt like it was just so ridiculous that, like, making it into an R&B song, you could play these lyrics really seriously and sing about how, like, somebody's taking you round and round and wasting your time and just not being a good partner. And then the youths will be like, yeah, this song's really good. I really feel this. And they look it up and they pull up the music video, and there's Rat in spandex and frills and Milton Berle as a butler and just like pure 80s metal camp. And it's very important to remember that at the time, this was like the peak of rock and roll masculinity. And you look at it now and you're like, boy, those boys are wearing a lot of makeup, huh? I think in Florida they might get arrested for something gender something. I don't know. DeSantis would not be a fan. Let's say that. But I think this song holds up. I think it's got a great chorus. It's got some fun guitar solos. Of the hair metal songs, it's, I think, a lesser known classic.
What is the guitar solo replaced with?
I think you could probably do like some kind of synth something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe you keep
Caroline
it.
Polachek's vocal scatting.
That's what I was gonna say. Maybe you keep it in, but you do some like vocal something, some vocoder. I don't know.
Ooh.
You have some options.
I feel like this song is still so like poisoned by like the era of it being just like played in like car radios and in random like car shops or whatever. Like just like you're playing 92.5 The Fox.
Listen,
like,
I could have chosen Living on a Prayer, and I did not.
I'm just saying this is just in the canon of like those songs that are gonna play on those radio stations that I'm just kind of like, man, I really am not ready to hear this in its own unique individual context yet. But that being said, if I have to be objective, I can see the value of this as a song and how there is how it has value as a piece of musical history. And you're right. I mean, I think the lyrical content, I think it's fun. I feel like it's a message we can all relate to. Being run around. Wow, who has it? So yeah, I mean, I feel like I like your perspective on it, where it's like somebody is gonna like pull this out on like a tiny desk, and it's gonna be verbiage. Someone's gonna pull this out, and it's gonna be a hit, and everyone's gonna love it. I feel, especially for like sort of like new young, sort of like all R&B sort of talent. I think it's a good pick. Go ahead, Sean. How you feel? Open up the pit.
I have a very complicated relationship with hair metal. I probably have said on this show in so many ways that I'm very happy that grunge came and killed hair metal. But then there are a couple of instances where I think hair metal just shined through, and Rat and Warrant might be one of those examples of bands that were just so bad that they were so good. Like, this song is just a classic, and it warms my heart to hear it. I totally understand what you're saying, Tyler. You're like, oh, really? Like, again? Yeah.
This one.
But it's so good to me. I think it's just the guitar solos and the tackiness, and the Taylor was saying it, that I was just putting together in my head how I could be the front man from Rat for Halloween this year.
Okay.
Like, if I could... Remember that wig that Katie had?
Yes.
There's a
photo of Sean wearing
There's a photo of me with it on.
a black wig.
If I could find that wig in Halloween, I definitely make this work. But yeah, this music video makes no sense. I think it has... That's why this song would work so well, is because it feels very Lil Yachty right now. Like, all the vibes of this song is just scream Yachty. There's not that many lyrics. But it's very lyrically full, with the exception of the guitar solo. But he's pretty good at doing that voice, where he did his voice coder thing. That could totally make up for this. So I totally see what you said there. I think Tyler tried to get you in a spot, and you found a way to make it creative and fun. And this plays.
I'd even go so far as saying maybe Tizo Touchdown.
Ooh, dude, Tizo could do a fire cover of this.
Ooh.
I think that'd be sick.
I'd love to see Tizo do a cover of this and remake the video.
Yes, please. Oh, that'd be amazing. All right, Tyler. Well, that just leaves you. What did you have for us?
Hey, everybody. This week I chose My Curse by Killswitch Engage. So I will admit that the only era of Killswitch Engage that I will admit to ever liking is the Howard Jones era, because he basically just sort of does an even mix of sort of like almost R&B adjacent, like sort of like crooning and like some like really intense like metal vocals, and I feel like that's really kind of where I was like, there's something here. Like, this is so close to already being that thing, but it's like if you change the instrumentation and you just like sort of, instead of just did like a dirty vocal of the chorus, you just made it a little more elongated, a little more elaborate, a little more ornate in a beautiful sing-song voice. I feel like you're like, you're done, easy. But I think what's kind of funny is that in the Genius article, apparently Howard is just like, it's just about chicks. I don't really want to explain like what songs are about. I'm just a guy that writes songs. And I can appreciate the simplicity, right? There's so much heartache, so much pain in this song, but it's about chicks, man. And I feel like there's got to be like a weirdo that's like out there that like in the space that's like that would probably do something fun with this, like maybe like a Thundercat or something. I don't know. Just you can even make it like a little funky, do something weird with it. I don't know. I feel like this one was so clearly an intense metal song that could also is so close to being an R&B song if you just like flip the switch just a little bit and you're there. So I think that was my thought process.
You guys remember how Hot Topic had a smell?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Is this the sound you associate with that smell?
Yes. I put this on in the car this evening, and I swear I could smell Hot Topic again. Killswitch Engage is one of those bands from that era where like Hot Topic came to our mall for the first time, and it was like vaguely scary, but like everybody had to go in, and they would play stuff like this, and at the time you'd be like, this is the scariest thing I've ever heard.
Job for a cowboy? I'm pooping my pants, boy.
Right. And then they'd have shirts that said weird stuff on them, like I wrestled a bear once, and Kevin would buy them having no idea that they were a reference to a band. But, looking back on this now, it's not as, like, out there as I remember it being. It is much more of a traditional pop song that just happens to have screaming in it.
Yeah.
And I think in that way, especially lyrically, this could be an R&B song because it's about yearning. It's about like wanting to be with someone. It's very like tropey.
Yeah.
But at the time, it felt so transgressive because you were saying these things in a really vocal cord damaging scream. And your parents hated it. But now, yeah, you could totally just like rework this and have like, I don't know, I could see like Arlo Parks or somebody doing something with this. Like,
ooh, I like that.
I like the idea of like a female R&B singer taking this one on just because this version is so hyper masculine. I think it'd be fun.
I feel like this would be a very good song to open up or at least have some big piece in a metal opera. I just feel like there's a lot of operatic things happening here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, which is interesting because I think there's a nice... You get the screaming, and I'd be interested to see how that works inside of a song. And I think Taylor brings up a very good point where in R&B your lyrics have to be good because they're clean. You can't hide behind the curtain of screaming.
The ferocity of your vocals.
YouTube just went right into Butterfly.
Well, this is your fault.
Come, my lady. Come, my lady.
So, which hot B-side right there. But yeah, so I think there's some really beautiful elements to this one. Your commentary on Hot Topic was also very funny as well. So I think I would love to hear this song done with synths. Like it'd be cool to see if you could do like a drum and beat to this with like a really minimalized kind of instrumentation behind it, but see how true you could keep it to what the original intent of the song was.
Where's the pop goes metal?
Yeah.
Was it?
No, where?
Oh, what?
The inverse.
Oh.
I want pop artists to do metal songs of their childhood.
Seriously.
All right, so with that, it's time for listener B-sides. We got a couple this week. Episode 221, Metal to R&B. Julian Seth picked Symbolic by Death. I am familiar with Death. I know that they are a very heavy band. I am not familiar with the song, though. Anybody familiar with the song?
No, but I mean, great ambitious choice. Death is great.
And then our second one was from 71 DPI. She is Beautiful by Andrew WK. I feel like I need to listen to more of his stuff.
I don't know. I don't know if I would consider Andrew WK as metal.
That's what I said to him too. I was like, "Is this?"
You don't think of that? That what's that song he does? But that's like the party song.
Party Hard.
Is that what it's? Yeah, Party. You don't think Party Hard's a metal song?
I mean, yeah, that's true. I don't know.
I think that's the
let's
brilliance
keep
of
going.
Andrew WK. I think that he
He makes
is
like
able to
pop
make fun
metal.
songs that are still metal. Right.
Yeah,
And
okay.
that's-
All right.
that's-
I'll allow it. I'll allow
Yeah.
it.
Okay. I got you. 71 DPI.
Quantified as hard rock, heavy metal, alt rock, alternative metal, pop metal.
See, that's I feel like the problem with most metal bands is that they're always caught up in this cloud of generalness that probably gets them to the right place.
Yeah.
Like people don't like them because of the screaming, probably, if it's new stuff. But I mean, that's a dumb reason not to like somebody. So it is what it is. Well, with that, it's time for our B-sides. Anybody got some cool B-sides this week that we're so close to getting on but didn't quite make the remix?
I mentioned power ballads. I had Home Sweet Home by Motley Crue. I Remember You by Skid Row. And then I had to put them on there. Right Here in My Arms by him.
I would say I didn't necessarily have any other songs in particular, but I had artists I was looking at. So Ruby the Hatchet, which is like a sort of stoner metal. We have After the Burial, which is sort of like a more like, I don't know what you would call it. And then, Every Time I Die probably would have been good. Let's see, what else was in there? Gangastron, as turns out, was not a band for that. There's a few different bands I was playing through, but I didn't really settle on anything too.
Let's see. Tyler brought up Protest the Hero, and I'm not going to name them because I don't think they have any good ones that would go on here, really.
Right.
But there is a band that you might be interested in called Veil of Maya.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of fit into that line with a little bit more of the metalcore vibe to it a little bit. I think a lot of the newer Bring Me the Horizon stuff would be kind of cool because it does have a little bit of that mixture in there. Shadow of Moses would be probably a little bit of a heavier one. I'm trying to think. There's probably like another... there's like some pretty good stuff out there today that's metal adjacent. I'll just leave it to those two.
Tyler, I knew right from the beginning that you would end up winning. Where can people find you?
Hey everybody, you can find my design and illustration work at rudepets.club, and as always, you can find me on socials as Rude Pets Club on Instagram and Twitter.
Sean, I knew right from the start you'd put an arrow through my heart. Where can they find you?
And if you want to be part of my fam, you can find me on the Instagram at TallySean.
And listen, with love, we'll find a way. Just give it time. What comes around goes around. You can find me on the socials at TC Olstead. All of these songs will be on the official No Repeats podcast playlist. We'll be back next week with another episode of No Repeat.